Conservative MP Miriam Cates, one of the few actual conservatives, has called for the police to investigate the charity Mermaids, which supports transgender, non-binary and gender-diverse children and their families. She raised the issue to the Prime Minister at PMQs on Wednesday.
Mr. Speaker, over the past week, serious safeguarding failures by the children's charity Mermaids have come to light. Revelations that the charity sent breast-flattening devices to young girls behind their parents' back, promoted harmful medical and surgical procedures to children, hired a trustee with links to paedophile organisations, and a digital engagement manager who posted pornographic images online, including of himself dressed as a schoolgirl. For years, despite whistleblowers raising alarm, Mermaids have had unfettered access to vulnerable children. Does my right honourable friend agree that it has taken far too long for these concerns to be taken seriously? And does she also agree that it is high time for a police investigation into the activities of Mermaids and its
It's very important that under 18s are able to develop their own decision-making capabilities and not be forced into any kind of activity. And what I would say on the subject of the investigation she raises, of course those matters should be raised and should be properly looked at.
Mermaids dispute this and say it is extremely distressing that some MPs want to deny young trans people support and services without listening to their experiences. Joining me now is Tanya from Safe Schools Alliance. Tanya, I have to dispute that point that they just disputed, the fact that children can be trans. Where would you fall on that?
Hi, Calvin. Thanks for having me on. Yes, we're incredibly concerned that Mermaids seem to still not understand the need for investigation here. Of course they need to be investigated. We've had revelations of an individual working for them who we believe possibly had direct access to children, had some very unsuitable images all over line. They also had an individual as a trustee whose published views would make anybody with any sort of understanding of safeguarding question whether he was suitable to work in any capacity with children. I mean, you're an ex-teacher, Calvin. You know as well as I do that any teacher expressing these views or having images of themselves like this online, serious questions would be asked about their suitability to work with children. And like you said, the whole premises of Mermaids seems to be based on not understanding normal child development, not understanding safeguarding at all. So it's really inevitable that people like this have been found in their organisation.
Let's look at the safeguarding, because on their recruitment page they say, we know DBS checks can cause anxiety, specifically for trans people. Please know we conduct the checks in a trans-inclusive way. If you have a criminal record, this will not automatically debar you from employment. Again, safeguarding flags everywhere you look with this charity. It's such a concern.
I mean, it's absolutely shocking. There were specific exemptions in the 1974 Rehabilitation of Offenders Act that say that these don't apply to schools or places working with children, because we know whilst you want to rehabilitate people, you do not take those chances with the safety of children. These are well-established principles which now seem to be being unpicked, and we really do need to ask questions about why that is. I mean, Mermaids are going out of their way to silence people who are desperately trying to help children like this. Like, they've taken a complaint to the Charity Commission about new charity LGB Alliance, which is very concerned about the children that Mermaids are medicalising and putting on a path to potential sterilisation. And they're campaigning hard, lots of lesbian and gay adults are campaigning hard to take a safeguarding first approach with children, and Mermaids have attacked them over that. And I think questions really need to be asked about why Mermaids have felt the need to attack them like that.
Well, indeed, and if children have gender dysphoria, surely we should be looking at ways of supporting them with therapy, even with prayer, but certainly the parents and the schools should have a conversation together. What concerns me is when Mermaids promotes ideas behind parents' back, such as these chest binders, which the police have purported to be a form of child abuse, but it goes further than that, because Mermaids promotes harmful medical and surgical procedures too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. These children are being taken outside of normal safeguarding parameters. We would expect children to get help and support, especially mental health support, in a timely manner. We would expect all avenues of a child's life to be explored when it first becomes apparent that they're suffering from gender distress. And you would expect schools and parents to be working together for the benefit of the child, because no one person has the whole picture of what is going on in that child's life. So all services and all adults involved in that child must work together for the benefit of that child. It's just not a child-centred approach that Mermaids are taking.
Or it is a child-centred approach in the wrong way, because you wouldn't ask...
absolutely, yeah.
You wouldn't ask a 5-year-old many questions about their future, would you? In fact, one of the few decisions you might get them to make is what clothes to wear that day. And even if you do, it's going to be quite a crazy answer quite often. So why would they promote ideas that children as young as 5 can define their gender and or start working towards irreversible medical procedures?
Well, it's very concerning, isn't it? Because that's not in line with all you know about child development. Like you say, if you let a very young child open the wardrobe and choose what it wears, you're ending up with a child walking down the street in their welly boots and woolly coat in the middle of summer. But you wouldn't want a child to feel that they had no control over their life, so you would allow them the choice of 2 appropriate outfits.
Tanya Carter, a very sensible person there. Thank you very much for joining me today. That's Tanya Carter from Safe Schools Alliance. A spokesman for the charity Mermaids sent us this statement. Our critics seem to have a problem accepting that trans people exist. They do, which means that young trans people also exist. And it is these people which Mermaids exists to help. It is extremely distressing that some MPs want to deny them support and services without listening to their experiences. There has been much inaccurate comment about chest binders. Our position is that providing a young person with a binder and comprehensive safety guidelines from an experienced member of staff is preferable to the likely alternative of unsafe practices and or continued or increasing dysphoria. As for puberty blockers, they are an internationally recognized safe reversible healthcare option and have been recommended by medical authorities in the UK and internationally for decades. I'm not convinced, but moving on.